and recording for prosperity. All right, good evening and welcome everybody to the March 17th special St. Patty's Day edition of the Village of Woodbury Planning Board meeting. I am your chairman, Christopher Gerber, and I'd like to welcome everybody tonight. I ask that everybody please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Please be seated. All right. First item on the agenda this evening is Fisher, review and discuss documents submitted for proposed two-lot subdivision on Scudamonk Road. Said property is located at 7 Scudamonk Road in Highland Mills and is known on the Village of Woodbury's tax map section. Oops, hold on, pause.
I was gonna say, what about the minutes?
It's been a month. I forgot what to do. Okay.
Hit the mute button.
And Sandy couldn't throw something to me quick enough.
Well, I was trying to be polite. I wasn't going to interrupt you.
It's okay. That's what makes us all a good group. All right. So as the board had a chance to review the January 2021 minutes that were distributed.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. I'll make a motion to accept those minutes.
I'll second.
Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. As the board also had a chance to review the February 17th, 2021 minutes is distributed.
Yes.
Okay. Any questions?
I'd like to make a change. I made a mistake when I said on page 5, when I was talking about the Monroe Woodbury buses exiting, I said Larkin Road. I should have said Gregory Road. It was my mistake.
Okay, so change Larkin to Gregory.
Yes, so they exit from Oakland and Gregory usually around dismissal time.
Yeah. Okay. Any other changes or questions on the minutes? Okay, I'll offer a motion to accept the minutes as amended.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So carried. Okay. We're just so anxious to get to your application, David. I just jumped right over everything. That's what happened here.
I appreciate the enthusiasm. What can I say?
All right, let's try this again. Fisher, review and discuss documents submitted for a proposed second lot subdivision on Scudamonk Road. Said property is located at 7 Scudamonk Road in Highland Mills. It is known in the Village of Woodbury tax maps, section 204, block 1, lot 36.2. All right, David, I think it's the first time you're here for this, right?
Yes.
All right, 1,000-foot view, please.
Yeah, absolutely. So, well, thank you for the opportunity here to present before the board. We have a piece of land on Scudamonk Road that's over 2 acres. So the owner's client would like to subdivide it into 2 lots, each conforming to the zoning code with 1 acre per lot. There does exist a house and another structure on what would be 1 remaining lot. On that one, we're proposing to remove an existing garage behind the masonry structure that's noted on the plan to help in reaching or achieving the setback requirements per the zoning code. The second lot would result in a new house, typical within the area, and we believe that this has a basis to meet the zoning codes, and we'll be able to work through it to get to a good conclusion of subdividing the 2 lots. I did receive the comments, had time to review them. Many of them overlap between the 2 entities, the municipal engineer and the planner. So I am open to suggestions. However you'd like to proceed would be great with me.
Where'd Chris go? Oh,
I'm here, sorry. Learning the mute button. Natalie, you want to go ahead with your?
Sure, thank you. So as Mr. Namako stated already, this is a 2-lot subdivision in the R1A zone, requiring 1 acre for each lot. The existing lot has frontage on Scunamunk Road, Ridge Road, and Lent Drive, and it's improved with a single-family home, a detached masonry building with garage, and also a shed. We think actually there's a number of threshold issues that need to be addressed for the application to proceed. But we did try to make our memo as complete as possible so that the applicant had everything they needed to move forward and make revisions for next steps. So the first issue that was kind of touched upon is that there is a deficiency in lot area required per the code. The net lot area deductions results in 2 parcels less than 1 acre. And even actually on an overall basis, if you look at the required net lot area calculations, you couldn't achieve 1 acre for either lot, or you could have one more than 1 acre, but one that was less. So we think this does require a referral to the ZBA for net lot area. And in consideration of that ZBA referral, if the applicant wishes to proceed, we think that the deductions for net lot area need to be reviewed for the slopes. There seemed to be some discrepancies that we couldn't resolve. In looking at the application, it's pretty clear that the lots are highly irregular. We think that it may have been done in an attempt to conform to the code bulk requirements as best as possible. But since it seems that this application will have to go to the ZBA, we think that the lot should be reconfigured to a more practical layout, even if it requires a greater variance. For instance, like if you were looking at the lots and say one homeowner decided to build a fence around their property, it would be very awkward and kind of not practical. The second issue that we think is a bigger one is what the existing masonry building is used for. As it is, it's non-conforming to your code, whether it's an accessory use or a principal use. But what it is, accessory or principal, should be decided based on what the applicant represents that it's used for, because depending on what it is, it may increase the degree of nonconformity, and that needs to be fleshed out. It's also we're not sure if the use itself is non-conforming. So from what we know, the size of the building, it's greater than the code allows for an accessory use. And if it is accessory, it should be located in a rear yard, which as it's positioned, it doesn't seem to be. And also now the building encroaches on the front yard setback. The other issues that need to be addressed on the plan are showing the 2 front yards required for lot 1, which is the new lot, containing no improvements other than the existing shed and foundation remains. And then once those are shown, the applicant should identify the rear yard based on what is opposite the front door. And also what needs to be shown on the plan is the setback from county roads. It's 50 feet. I did mention the shed that's on this lot. It is within the required setback, but it would be considered an existing nonconformity. However, when you input that new lot line, it creates a new nonconformity because the structure is within 6 feet of a lot line. So that's also something that should be considered in the future. And we're not really sure if that shed is necessary or if it could be removed, eliminating that. But again, if the lot lines are reconfigured, it probably isn't an issue. The rest of our memo discusses the water and sewer connections, additional information that we'd like to see on the same. Details on erosion and sediment control should be shown on the plan. The topographic elevations should be revised, showing the property above elevation 600. I think they're about 800 and above now, and that's going to trigger a ridge preservation review. We requested some additional information on the access and easements. And otherwise, if there's anything from our report that you'd like to discuss, I'd be happy to answer any questions. Sorry, that was a lot, it felt like.
Thank you very much, Natalie. Does any member of the board have questions for Natalie? No? David?
So I, basically understand, all the points you brought out. The masonry building, as it stands, as she had mentioned, is too big for an accessory structure with the footprint. So, but it is a pre-existing non-conforming condition regarding the front yard. So we'd like to get the board's consideration on that. It does encroach on the front yard. And then in the back, I'm not sure why it does not meet the setback requirement. That, because we're beyond the 50 feet from the back of the masonry building to the proposed lot line.
I'm not sure if that was one of my comments necessarily, because I think once you remove the garage, it actually is
Right.
conforming to that
Okay.
rear yard setback. But I think one of the issues is what is it used for? Because technically it could be a non-conforming use, or is it just the building? Those are questions that kind of need to be answered. And I think after we get that answer, it would be something that we need to discuss with Gary Thomasberger, the building inspector. And then if you do decide to go before the ZBA, then it may be something that needs to be addressed with them as well.
Sure. Another comment that was brought out is for the proposed lot with the new house, we use that existing driveway cut because it exists, not to be redundant. But yeah, one of the comments was proposing or recommending that we do have access off of Lent Drive, since there's more of a sight distance and perhaps safer in nature. I just want to get the board's thought on that. Again, because we did propose a driveway there because it does exist.
I think that may have been a comment from Max and Jonathan, I'm not sure, but I don't know. Let me just pull the plan out really quick. And I guess to elaborate on that, again, I think that the request here is to prove that adequate site distances are achieved and provide that information. And then if there is a question, it could be reviewed by the board's traffic consultant if needed. That would be my opinion on that.
Well, obviously we are proposing a lot line separation that is unique in its configuration. And because at this point, if we go to the ZBA, we'd only be asking for 5% variance on one lot and 7% on the other. They're minor in nature. They equate to 1,800 square feet on one lot and 3,600 square feet on the other. So they're small in comparison, and I believe perhaps the ZBA would consider such a thing. How would you envision referring us to the ZBA for a more conventional lot line, while that would increase the variance that would be requested? I mean, right now I think we're in a good position, to ask for the variance. If you do propose a conventional configuration, that will definitely increase the variance request on one of the lots, and probably in a large way. So I'd like to get your thoughts on that.
If I could weigh in as a preliminary matter to any comments from the planning board. David, my position is always that it's never the position of, should be the position of a planning board to suggest on a referral as to whether or not a variance should be granted, except in rare circumstances. The planning board deals with planning issues, and they don't typically deal with the 5-part test that the ZBA is bound by. No. And so for the board to sort of put itself in the ZBA shoes, go through the test and say that a variance should or should not be granted, I don't think is appropriate, except in the most extreme cases. However, the planning board can make a referral, and in that referral, if you're not already proposing a conventional, would comment on the planning issue of the irregularity of that, and its opinion that even though you get less of a variance, which is part of the test of the ZBA, that having an irregular lot versus a conventional lot is, if the planning board so believes, is not, in their opinion, good planning and should not be considered. So they could weigh in on the planning aspects of it, but not whether or not a variance should be granted by them.
Agree. So I mean, while it's, it's a comment that we wouldn't want to battle, for example. So, it's irregular, yes, but it's not seen. It's an imaginary line, if you will, that no one sees as you're looking across the property. It's delineated as meets and bounds. Of course, there's legal descriptions associated with it, but it's not an obstruction to the property. And, if we were able to achieve it the way it's proposed, I think that would be a good thing. In addition to that, the 15 to 25% slopes, in doing a preliminary study, it appears that we can grade that out and eliminate those slopes, which would actually help in two things. We would increase our net area, which would actually perhaps eliminate one of the variances. And two, it might provide a more traditional configuration of the subdivision line. Does the board have any thoughts on that? Before we go down that road.
I do have a thought on that, not to interrupt, because I know, I'm sorry if I'm overstepping, but the net lot area requirements are for existing conditions. So whether or not you choose to regrade it after, if it was to get approved, it would be based on the conditions as they are now. So that wouldn't be considered in any variance request.
Otherwise, there'd be little sense at having a net lot area, because you'd just say, well, I'll regrade every steep slope and therefore I don't have steep slopes. It would really render it meaningless.
Well, I can understand the theory behind that, but it is limited. It's not an undisciplined exercise. I mean, you can't slope indefinitely beyond property lines. And we do slope driveways to make them conform to a 5% slope or 8% slope, whatever the zoning code of a municipality has. So there are instances in which a slope would need to be modified to meet the zoning code. And as I mentioned, a driveway. So there are opportunities in this property to grade out the 15 to 25% slope, steep slopes, because of the grading, because of the way it slopes towards the houses. There is that opportunity without going beyond the property lines and without impacting indefinitely onto streets or anything else.
For this application to proceed, the net lot area calculations need to be based on the site as it is existing. So if, again, that what you're talking about is modifying the site after an approval, in my opinion, and that hasn't been granted.
Yeah, I think that's, I agree with Natalie. That's clear from the definition in the code. And that's what this board is going to be bound by.
Basically, other than that, the others are perhaps, are definitely technical in nature, and we can work through them. Feel confident we can work through the rest of the comments to a satisfactory end. If, we're at this point now where we cannot amend or alter or grade the existing site, then we would have to go to the ZBA, and I would need to be referred to them as such.
Also, David, I might have missed what you were saying with respect to one of the structures, but were you referring to the shed that said that, well, it's a pre-existing location? Was that in reference to the shed that you were saying that?
No, the one-story masonry building.
Okay.
Not the shed is non-consequential. The garage that we're removing is of poor condition anyway. What I was referring to was the one-story masonry building as a pre-existing non-conforming condition.
And that would be with respect to which setback?
The front yard. Off of Scunny Monk Road. It's 37.6 feet away from the property line. as opposed to the 50 feet required, or 40 feet, I'm sorry. 40 feet.
But that's because you're creating that as the front yard, right? Presently, it's not a front yard, is it? For that lot?
Well, I would think so. The driveway is off of Stony Monk to the house. The front, well, I guess let's talk about that. What are we considering the front yard on lot number 1?
I can't tell you that. I think Natalie may wish to weigh in, but I certainly, unless Natalie says that it's clear under the code, I would think it would need a determination by Gary as to both under your present condition and under your reconfigured as to what would be front yards, side yards, et cetera.
Yeah, I mean, I think the dimension that's shown there is, in my opinion, it is within the front yard, and that could be considered a pre-existing nonconformity. However, I don't think you've answered whether or not what is this building being used for?
I don't know.
Okay.
I to be honest with the board, I really don't know.
Because
This
like
building-
we've just reviewed another application that there was an existing non-conforming use, and changing the land and the development actually increased the degree of non-conformity, which could be the case here if this is considered, I mean, it's already greater than the area that's allowed for an accessory building. So it's possible that it would be considered a principal building unless that was considered an existing nonconformity, which I couldn't say. So I think that is like a very threshold question to this. And I think it's kind of very pertinent to how this is referred to the ZBA. So I think that and all of these other questions about, you have to show the front yard setback for the existing lot or for the new lot 1, which also might create another nonconformity that needs to be addressed by the ZBA if you don't reconfigure the lot lines. Although the existing shed, like you said, is kind of a moot point, it's existing nonconformity. Your new lot line puts it 6 feet closer, which is also another nonconformity, and it's a new nonconformity. So I think, in my opinion, how you want to, or how the applicant wants to move forward with this kind of really needs to be flushed out before that referral occurs, and not to delay it because it needs to happen. But I just, again,
Would it be?
But could I just ask could I just go back to my original question? Oh, I'm sorry, Chris. I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, it's all right. I'm just saying maybe it may be good to have a meeting with Gary and get his opinion on the pre-existing non-conforming and what we're going to consider the front yard and side yards here.
Well, yeah, I agree, because at the existing house, as you could see, its driveway is off of Scunnamunk, and it does face Scunnamunk Road. So one of the comments said that maybe the front yard was going up that way, and I'm not seeing that. So I definitely need a clear vision on what we're considering the front yard to be for the lot that contains the existing house. So if we can have that meeting, that would be fantastic.
You think that would be helpful, Natalie, or?
I think that Gary's opinion on many of these matters needs to be solicited, especially maybe less on that one particular issue, but on all the others. Again, we did speak with him about the new lot and the new home and those setbacks. And again, the way it's shown on the applicant's plan, doesn't have the 40-foot setback from Lent Drive, which is required, which would shift that home and also, again, create another setback issue. So, I mean, I think it is worthwhile to get Gary's opinion, but I'm not sure the board, what is your opinion on the way the lot lines are configured? Would you want to see those kind of, change to something that's more practical? I mean, because that would change the plan as well, and things that Gary might opine on, making it moot or not moot.
I would like to see that lot line changed. I don't like that at all. And like you said, Natalie, if one of the homeowners wants to put up a fence, it's gonna look like a jigsaw puzzle.
Yep, that's a big issue there.
I don't like that. And I really think we need to know whether you have to solicit it from the owner of the property or, but what that building, what that one-story masonry building is going to be used for. That seems critical to the whole plan.
It is, and if I might just weigh in for a second, is that that's not something that can either, that issue unresolved cannot be brought to Gary. I mean, I think it's up to the applicant owner to decide what is the use of that building, because different interpretations will spring from whichever use is decided.
Okay.
You always
What
say
I'm
everything
hearing-
so eloquently. So here I am like scrambling to describe it.
Said, I was just trying to back you up, saying the same thing as you.
Rick gets paid by the syllable.
Legal knees.
So
All right,
what
I'll
I'm
be
hearing-
quiet.
So what I'm hearing is two things. One is a reconfiguration of the lot line so they look a little bit more uniform and not this. And then we need a determination from either David or from your owner of the property. What is the intention of the use of that structure?
I heard you completely. I'm just writing a few things down. That's all.
Don't worry, Max. We didn't forget about you yet.
I'm glad it took so long because I actually fell off there for a little while.
All right.
Very
You
nice.
want to talk about MPV's report, or we have any other questions you want to talk about with Natalie?
I did have just one other question. At the top of that, where the gravel driveway is that goes out by the proposed driveway, that little piece of land there, who owns that? I mean, I see the dark line is the property line, right?
Yes.
So whose land is outside the property line?
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Because the driveways go on that property.
Yes.
I mean, don't we need to know that if you're gonna put a driveway through somebody else's property?
Yeah, that's why it exists already. So there must be some kind of agreement in place. So we have to further investigate that.
Yeah, I'm sure Rick would want a copy of that before.
Yeah, I'm afraid it may be a little bit more complicated than that, though. Because I think that, I mean, it may have an easement, but given that odd piece of leftover property, as Sandy is talking about, it also may be that it's just by use, that there was this access way that nobody complained about, and it may or may not qualify as an easement by prescription. That is an easement without it being written and just by use. But that has to satisfy several criteria, legal criteria. So I think the thing to do is exactly what you've asked of David, and that's for him to go ahead and find out what rights they have in the use of that land over which it seems outside of their property line.
And I mean, if it is, I think then I think, I'm not sure if John or Natalie said, the driveway should then come in off of Lent, and that would resolve that right there.
Correct.
That's all, Chris.
All right, thank you. Tommy, Rob, Rich,
Good.
Max?
good.
Go ahead, sir.
Yeah, so I agree with Natalie and Rick that there's a lot of zoning issues that seem to be squared away, and I won't waste your time going through our zoning section of the memo. I'm sure Mr. Thomas Berger will clarify all the issues that need to be clarified. I'll just quickly comment on, we really feel it would be much better that this new lot get access from Lent rather than Scunnamunk. We feel like the geometry of that roadway makes a lot more sense. And we notice that there seems to be the gravel driveway that goes out to Scunnamunk currently is not shown to be removed. If it isn't to be removed, then there will need to be some sort of easement in favor of the lot to the west over the lot, over the lot to the east over the lot to the west. And any easement would have to be accounted for in the lot area. So I assume that gravel driveway is just intended to be abandoned. Other than that, we didn't really have any additional comments worth noting at this point.
Any questions for Max and his report? All right, Rick, anything you want to bring up too here?
No, I think it's all been covered.
Yeah, we're not, so I think we need another submittal before we can kick them over to the ZBA, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Say that one more time, sorry.
We need the updates with the lot lines,
Yeah.
potential change in the lot lines. If you can figure out the easement issues or reconfigure the driveway to Lent. Right,
And the proposed use in the masonry structure.
proposed use of the masonry structure.
The one thing we would ask would help quite a bit is just the front yard. What would be the front yard for the lot containing the existing house? It does affect.
I
The
think it
overall
says
direct-
you have shown. It's,
Okay. Okay, so we're going to consider the Scunny Monk side of that property as the front yard.
that's how the front door is facing Scunny Monk Road, correct? Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, but I would really like to see Gary weigh in on that because he's come up with some different conclusions. I think probably in hindsight, we're absolutely right that I wouldn't have come up with initially with respect to front yards, side yards, et cetera, when you have these odd configurations of adjacent roadways.
Sounds good to me.
Yeah, I do agree. So what would be the mechanism to get that?
I was just going to ask Natalie if she could pen a memo to Mr. Thomasberg for his opinion on that.
Thank you.
Will do.
You are a happy boy. What can I say?
Oh, listen, we can send you back to South Blooming Grove and talk about balloons.
You know, I'm famous for that.
Oh, that was a meeting heard all around the planning board world in Orange County.
I'm sure.
Sorry.
Good publicity's good, whether it's good or bad, right?
I actually
As
felt
long as they spell your name right.
I felt a little bad for David after that meeting.
Oh, well, you know what? It's been a pleasure working with you, even on the other projects. I hope to be seeing you real soon on another project that we have before you.
Yep.
I'm hoping that comments coming up, so we'll work through that.
All right. And so you're good, David, with what you need, and then Natalie will get the memo and we'll get your answer on the front door, front yard, and we'll see you then.
Thank you very much, boy. Have a
Before-
great evening.
Before we leave, just Natalie, I think we probably need that opinion both as to existing as well as to proposed.
Yeah,
And
what I'll do is give Gary he has the plan and I'll ask him to opine on both lots as they are.
both lots as they are. I'm not,
So without the revised submission, I mean, I think at this point, I mean, I have an idea, but what I'll ask Gary to identify the front yards required for both lots.
Okay.
And then the side and the rear as well, unless you were thinking something different.
I was thinking something a little bit different, quite frankly, because to ask Gary for the front, rear, and side yards of the proposed plan, when it doesn't appear that the planning board is enamored with the proposed plan, that definition may change if there are more conventional lot lines drawn.
Right.
So
Right.
it may be better to wait for David to come up with more conventional lots and then have Gary opine as to the existing and proposed. But I'll leave it at whatever the planning board wants.
I
I
don't
think
want anybody to have to do double work. So if things
Right.
can change, if the lot lines get moved around, I don't want to waste anybody's time either.
Yeah, I'm very site specific. I'm really just looking for the existing house determination. what would be the front yard of the existing house? That's not going to change, no matter where we draw the lot lines.
Okay, but you may have to go back to Gary then after the proposed lines are drawn to ensure that you are meeting front, rear, and side yard setbacks.
And you know what, Rick, I agree. But yet his determination on the existing house is what will evolve into our delineating the subdivision line.
That's fine. That's not an
Okay.
unreasonable way to proceed.
Okay, so
Have a good night.
we'll see you soon.
All right,
Good night,
take
David.
care.
Bye-bye.
All right, so I don't see anybody here for the UPS store. In the past, right, we've typically not talked about applicants. I mean, this is a new application, so I think it'd be kind of silly to move forward without the applicant here, right?
Yeah, I mean, sometimes you've done it like on ministerial things like extensions and things like
Yeah.
that.
But this is a
But-
whole new,
Thing. There's a lot of issues that have been raised by Natalie. And I think that it makes more sense to defer this to when the applicant is actually present to answer questions for you.
well, in that case, everybody gets to enjoy their green beer a little bit earlier this evening.
You
Or
guys are
whiskey.
being way too easy on me.
Oh, listen, Max, listen, I don't think you have any idea what's in the hopper for this planning board right now. Trust me, come back in a couple of months. You're not going to want to be here.
Okay.
Well, everybody enjoy their early night.
All
Motion,
right.
I'll make a motion to close.
Happy
Have a good
St.
night.
Patrick's.
Bye, everybody.
St.
Happy
Patrick's
St.
Day.
Patrick's
Bye.
Day.
Claudia, go
You
ahead.
too.
Wait.
Wait,
What's
Who's closing? I'm sorry.
What's up, Claudia?
Chris,
I didn't get the-
you said you made the motion.
Yeah. Anybody want a second to?
I'll second.
All right.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. All right. Good night again.
Good night.
Bye-bye.
Night.